So, what are we talking about today? What
Um,
is what?
I um I am talking about, I am still processing and trying to metabolize all these people around me who are losing jobs
Yeah,
or adjacent. So,
yeah.
you know, um and I do want to talk about the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship.
Okay.
Okay.
The Alliance for Responsible Citizenship.
Citizenship. And I don't know quite what it is. I am just now discovering it. And
Mm-hmm.
I will look up on my phone to see if it has like a description of what
Okay.
it is.
Where
But
did you find out about it?
I was,
What's that look about?
because I sometimes just go through my YouTubes,
Yes.
and I was
Okay.
going through my
Yes.
YouTubes. And I saw David Brooks, and we like
Right.
David Brooks. And I was like, oh, he's giving a little 15-minute talk. And let me look it up really quickly. Um, to He was giving a talk, and I should have been prepared, but getting me here this morning was
It's always a thing. Well, one, we were just thankful to be back.
yes,
Like
yes,
we
exactly,
took a
exactly.
we took a much needed longer break,
We did. It
and
took
that
us
was
a
good.
minute.
It took us a
Well,
minute.
here's the truth. We thought we would be back right
Yeah.
after the holiday, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't realize. I think that we were going to be I don't know, kind of set back with just the impending, the anxiety about the impending inauguration.
Yes.
And then the inauguration happened.
And
And
then the governing or
And
lack
then
thereof.
right, and so it just has been trying to catch one's breath.
Yeah.
And now I realize, oh, we just have to do breathing exercises for the next 4 years, very
Yes.
intentionally throughout the day, because otherwise you're
Yes.
not going to catch your breath.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we're here. So
Yeah.
anyway, I was going through my feed, and I saw David Brooks, and I was like, oh, this is a little 13-minute talk. And it was on the topic of the talk was what was the topic? It's called hold on, let me oh shoot, I'm just trying to get the topic because that was why it
Why it struck out to you.
oh, this was why. He said, we've created a caste system. And I was
Wow.
like, oh. And it was a talk that it's 14 minutes. So I was like, oh, this is really
Right.
good,
Digestible. Yes.
digestible. And it was at something called ARC 2025. Never had
Mm-hmm.
heard of that. Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. And so then I
Mm.
put it on, and I, peeped the comments very quickly because
Right.
the beginning of his talk, I kind of had heard some of the stuff before. So I was just looking at the comments, and they were like booing him. And I was like,
Really?
well, who is booing David Brooks? I mean, like,
Really?
what sane like, what? They did
Really?
not like the talk. So I said, well, what organization is the Alliance
Right.
for Responsible
Right.
Citizenship?
It seems like they would, I mean, from their name, it it just I would
Well,
assume that they would
uh,
be like,
yeah,
yes, thank you for
Chantel,
saying it. Really?
I want to encourage you and our listeners to check them out.
Okay.
It's 4,000 strong. Um, I actually ordered their little book because I'm curious.
Yes.
But it is
Yes.
it's uplifting of it's what is it? Uplifting of Western civilization. It's diverse. You will see
Okay.
a Black woman with braids
Okay.
talking about the Western's principles and values that built our civilization because it's made up of
Mhm.
people from all over the world. And some of it is true, like you listen and you're like, yeah, but as you listen, you're like, whoa, I don't know that I agree with the tenor of, you know, and the tone of this organization. And
Right.
what it feels like to me, and I'm a bit disturbed. And again, I haven't listened to a lot of speeches. I don't know anything about this group. I'm
Okay.
learning,
Okay.
but it feels like this rise of global fascism almost
Mhm.
up in we are
Mhm.
protecting um,
Mhm.
democracy, we are protecting liberalism, we're protecting the Western principles that created all of civilization. Now, I'm sure that someone will, you know, they'll go and listen to it, maybe do a deep dive and say, well, no, that's not necessarily it. I'm like, good, do it. I,
Right.
I'm at the very beginning of all of this. And so last night, you know, we have our little home group, and I was talking to a member of the home group, like the after home group party,
Right. Right.
and we were chatting about politics because a couple of these people are involved in what's going on. And I said, "Have you all heard?" Because you know these are my Republican friends
Right.
who are not Trumpers, who are very disgusted about what's going on. Have you heard of this Alliance for Responsible Citizenship? One of them had not heard of it. The other one, like me, had just heard of it this week
Wow.
and kind of heard of it the
Wow.
same way I did because we have a mutual friend who
Right.
was like, David Brooks got booed at this forum, and she was just taken aback. And so, yeah, he said, so that's how I heard of it. And I said, well, that's why I stopped on it because I saw David Brooks and I like him. So I was like, let me hear what he
Right.
has to say.
Right.
And then
Let me support him. Yeah.
yeah, and then when I saw these comments, I was like, well, who are these people? So
Mm.
I really want you to check it out.
I'm gonna
And I
check it
want
out.
us to have a broader conversation. This is just what I'm bringing, like, this is an
Okay.
introductory. This isn't even
Okay.
introductory because I don't know enough about it to introduce it.
Okay. So that's just that's an assignment.
That's an assignment.
Okay, that's
Check
an
this
assignment.
out because, oh,
I get the assignment. I get the
yeah,
assignment. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow. Well, I've never heard of them, and it's scary out there.
it is.
When you start, you know,
It is
on
scary out here.
laying uh going through the layers of what's
Yeah.
here.
Yes. Okay, so one other thing I'll put on the table and we can
Okay.
decide at what point we want to talk about it. But
Okay.
I sent you that podcast conversation with oh, who was it? Because you watched it. Oh goodness.
Oh, Lemon and Amanda.
Yes.
Yes.
What were your thoughts?
Yes.
So
Well,
I would,
one
yeah,
oh,
I
go
just want
ahead,
to put
go
that out
ahead. You
there
wanna
as a thing.
okay, so, yeah, so Don Lemon, had an interview, really was a conversation, it was great, with, Amanda, a comedian. She is an intellectual artist, is that how
Yes.
she describes
Yeah.
herself? Okay, and I do not remember her last name, but her name is
Seal,
Amanda.
or artist
Okay.
and art, yeah,
Artist,
intellectual. Yeah.
intellectual, and
Yeah.
she has her own YouTube channel, Amanda Land.
Amanda.
I think that, and so I have checked that out. And we'll link that video. I can
Yes.
link that
Yes.
in the show notes for folks.
Yes. Both the
But
Lemon
both
podcast
the lemon and yes,
and
yes, and because we like to share.
and maybe
We like
even,
to share.
the alliance for
Yes,
that one
yes, we're
too.
gonna check. I'm gonna put that in there too because we are sharers.
We are
On-
sharers and want
Yes,
feedback. I wanna
we
hear
are.
from the people.
That's
What are your
right.
thoughts?
What are your thoughts? So I really appreciated the conversation.
Yeah.
And one, I just love listening to artists. I actually it kind of is tied to what I wanted to talk about.
Yes.
Um, but one, she's just so energetic. She's so I think she's like someone who models what curiosity looks like in the chasing
Oh,
of it, and not just listening
yeah.
and believing, but like
Yeah.
chasing down
Yes.
what it is that you believe. And she brought up a lot of good like points that were very balanced. I thought,
She was. She
that
was.
was very balanced, and I think that that's something that we have lost because we're so tribal in our sides that
Mhm.
we are not able to really kind of see to really kind of just kind of tease out
Yeah.
the um the good and the bad, the weak and the strong of the
Yeah.
different things that are going on. And she made some good points. Both sides are in bed in corruption. There's corruption on both sides, and it looks very much the same. And I know this is something that we've been talking about, like, well, why isn't the Democratic Party doing more? Why aren't they saying more? Why aren't they being more vocal? And I think that, to her point, to kind of like what you're like, hey, is something going on here? Well, your hands are tied too. Like, we don't have a lot of clean hands to work. And we
Remember
don't have
how
hands that are willing to say, my hands have been dirty. Let me go wash these hands.
well, exactly. Remember how I said, "You know what? If these people are in bed with some of our Wall Street people, and Wall Street is actually fine with what's going
Yeah,
on."
what's going on?
You're right. The hands are tied.
The hands are tied. The hands are tied and dirty. And I like love the clarity, you know what I'm saying, of that. And then I also just appreciate it from Don. I didn't know Don Lemon from I'm
Me
just like
neither.
meeting Don
Same,
recently.
same. I
And
don't know
I
him
I
either.
met him during the campaign. And I
Yeah.
liked that he had varied voices on his show
Mhm.
and his platform. But I didn't know anything else about him. So I did not know any of the CNN stuff that he
Me
had to
either.
start there. And I appreciated also with I think they started off with just having a real honest dialogue about mental health, about the cost
Right,
of speaking out, you
right,
know, and ways in which they've had to pivot their life and the bravery to do that.
right,
Like,
right.
so
Talk about
um
innovation.
innovation, like in some ways I'm like, oh, what was happening to you from what I understood, Don, is that you were censored.
Right, right,
Like
right.
you were constrained. There were
Yeah.
things that they were like, oh, you can't do
There's a
that.
box,
There was a
and
box.
you have if you don't stay in that box,
If
then
you
you're
don't
not.
stay in that box, and for Amanda as well, there is a box, right?
Yeah,
This is the box.
yeah.
And if you're not willing to flourish in that box, or if you're not willing to support that box, then we have no use for you. And so but I appreciated seeing examples of what it looks like of
Mhm.
saying, you know what? I'd rather not. I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna take my
Yeah,
chance.
yeah,
And they're flourishing in that way.
yeah.
But the mental toll and just also just having open conversation, especially people of color, about mental health, I thought was also really good.
That was very good. One of the things that struck me in that interview that I am still turning over, and it is connected to what we said about the Dems not really being able
Mhm.
to lean in. And this was the other reason, which is almost that we've been so indoctrinated and we
Oh, yes.
don't know how to fight
We don't
anymore.
know how to
And when
fight. Yes.
she said, "Go to jail,"
Mhm.
like, I thought, "You know what? They actually need to talk to people like Amanda, so that we can get some sort of a strategy going, because if you're going
Yeah.
to protest, if you're going to show up at a government building as
Yeah.
a congressional, as a member of Congress, and you can't get in, that you look weak. I was just
You
like,
look
"Can
weak.
you all stop going to these government buildings and showing you can't get in?"
Oh my
Unless
gosh.
unless you just press in and then I'm going, and the only way you're gonna stop me is to
It's
arrest
to arrest
and then
me.
get arrested and go to jail.
Right. And go to
And she's
jail.
absolutely right. When she painted it,
Yes.
she was like, then the story becomes you've locked
Yes.
up these congressional representatives. The story gets off of, all the craziness, what they're doing, and you kind of see, no, this is so important. We're willing to fight for it. We're willing to go to jail. That whole yeah, when you put it up, I mean, that segment of the
Yeah.
interview made so much sense. And then what are you how are you showing up to protest? I mean, we still looking so
And your nice little
yeah.
right.
It
Yes.
it just
Yes.
I was like, she is
Yeah.
right. We don't
We don't
we're
know how to
so
fight.
domesticated. Like we don't
Mhm.
know how
Too
to
cushioned.
we don't. And she's
Mhm.
so right about France. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
They do know how to protest. I mean, and they will protest on a dime about anything.
Yep.
I think I was telling you the story where, the fishermen didn't feel they were treated right, and so
Right.
people came to the store, and the people in the fish section had bags and were loading up customers' bags with fish and saying, "You don't have to pay for this."
Right.
And when
Right.
they got to the checkout, there was so much solidarity that the rest
Yes.
of the people in the store was like, "Hey, they've decided that you don't have to pay for that. We're not gonna charge you for it, and, enjoy your fish," because
Right.
they were banding together to say, "We should get more money for our fish.
Right.
If you're not gonna pay us what we believe we deserve, then we're gonna give it away for free."
Right.
Now nobody gets to make a profit.
Right. Yeah. I think that yeah, thank you for reminding me about that part. That was spot on. And I think that we just don't know. I think it's two things. You're trying to fight, but if your hands are tied, you can't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
go
it
the
was both. She
distance.
mentioned
It's
both. Yeah.
both. It's the both. You can't
Mhm.
you can't really go the distance. And I think it's just that we just don't know how. We don't have representatives. We don't have leaders, And I mean, when we think about who was getting arrested when she mentioned like Dr. Martin Luther King, he wasn't a politician.
No, no.
He wasn't a politician, you know.
Mm,
But we don't even have like that alliance
yeah,
between like leaders of citizens,
yeah,
non-political representatives
yeah.
that's like
The only
sounding the
one out here
alarm.
doing any work, Williams Barber,
Right.
Poor People's
Right.
Campaign.
Poor
He's
People's Campaign.
um,
Right.
mm, you're right. Linda, made we were having dinner and she said, I noticed that the artists in the 60s feel like she said they feel like they were much more activists with their art. They were more centered on justice, that people had to listen to them. It
Right.
wasn't just this, oh, I've wearing a t-shirt, or I'm doing something on my social media thing. They went to the streets. They
Right.
actually were so influential and had a message that they talked to leadership.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah," and it was just I said, "Oh, you're right. You're talking about the Harry Belafontes.
That's
You're
right.
talking about,
Right.
the
Right.
Nina Simones.
That's
You're,
right. That's right.
you're,
The James
James
Baldwins.
Baldwin. You're
Mhm.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't I don't know that we have those
We
who are
we
where are those artists, Shawnee?
I think that well, yes. So this is kind of going into something I wanted to talk about, which are the artists
Yes.
and what we're hearing. One, I just don't think that any of us are. I think that our citizenship, we're kind of like Kai.
Mm. Okay.
We don't do hardship. We don't do hard floors.
Right.
We don't walk all day long. I mean, I would say 70% of his life, he's in somebody's arms.
Right. He is.
We can't.
Kai is
I
her
dropped
little bundle
I
of
dropped
furry
food
joy.
on the floor. I dropped food on the floor,
Mhm.
okay? And he looked at it. And that's when I said, "Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
All your canine instincts are gone." He looked at the food and he looked at me, and he did not go for the food that was right on the floor. I had to pick the food up, put it in my hand, and give it to him. And then he ate it. That's how we are. That's how we are. And it's not just one demographic of us. I think it's just us.
It's us.
It's just us.
We
It's
don't
just us.
we've been formed by affluence
Yes.
and
Yes. And
our ancestors
entertainment.
yeah, like, is
And
this the real?
entertainment.
Yeah.
I share with people like Trump's like, he's Trump is king, I'm king. And the reaction that everybody that I shared it with yesterday, their main reaction was hilarious laughter. And I'm like, this is this is not, I don't see anything funny.
No, it's not.
But it's like, he's like whatever. He's ridiculous. And so I think that we don't have the muscle of fighting, of leaning in that way because we're of our affluence and we're just so comfortable. We lack the imagination to imagine that our comfort in our world is going to be um, really damaged or infringed upon. And we also lack compassion. I was listening to something the other day, and I can't remember what it was, but it was just the compassion to care about other people.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, just other people. We are so individualistic, which gets back to why people are not using their influence in ways because their influence is for them. It's for my comfort, my money, my power, my trips, my stuff, my people versus no, I understand I represent and my voice is for my people.
Mhm.
My
Mhm.
agency is also speaks for people who can't speak for themselves. And I'm aware of my position and I'm aware of my responsibility.
Mhm.
And I just don't think that that's where we are. And I think it's one of those things that makes us weak. It's like our protective fence has big holes in it where things were allowed to come in
Mhm.
and get in. And um and I would say also back like listening to Dawn and listening to Amanda. Oh, that's where I heard it from. She was talking about it. I'm like, I just heard this when she was like going through and commenting on the comments.
Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
she was just saying it's so divisive. That's what I think this whole being able to, and I
Right.
never look at like comments and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm gonna start paying attention to
Mhm.
comments because I never
Mhm.
do. And but I think this whole phenomenon of being able to say whatever you want to say
Mhm.
anonymously, basically. So what if they
Mhm.
know your handle? It's not a
Mhm.
direct conversation. It's
Mhm.
not a conversation. You're just putting your stuff out there has done a lot of damage to our humanity
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and our lack of the practice of care, even to the person we disagree with,
Yeah.
even to the person we don't really know. We're able to just be experts, be right, put our thoughts out there, and then move on. And it's almost like a negative dopamine hit. That I think that people
Mhm.
a self
Mhm.
importance, and so I wonder how that impacts the artist or the people
Mhm.
that might lean in more or
Mhm.
lean in differently. The
Mhm.
artists of that day, they didn't have that.
Right. Right.
And I was thinking, about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I was really kind of wanting to talk about was, I read the other day that Dave Chappelle, Rolling Stones did an article, and I love Rolling Stones.
Yeah, same.
They
Yeah.
did an article on Dave Chappelle that he mentioned during his San Francisco show that he was politically censored on SNL. Remember the SNL? Um,
Right.
wonderful,
Right. I
wonderful
love that.
skit that he did. So he's
Wow.
recently come out and shared that he was censored politically, and it was like a first, right? Or something that SNL doesn't do, in the sense that he was told before the show not to talk about transgender people and not to mention Gaza. And if you remember, in that clip, um he did at towards the end of his monologue, he was like, in a couple days we're going to have a new president,
Yeah.
and he spoke, basically was speaking to Trump, and
We
he
represent
said that,
everyone. Yeah.
yeah, he said, he was basically like that, you have a chance to do
Mhm.
things different,
Mhm.
and we
Mhm.
need to basically care about the people in the Palisades and in Palestine. That's what he
Right.
said.
That's what he said. That's right.
And
Brilliant.
yeah, and he received a lot of backlash, from that. But the fact that he was just even censored, or again, this box, you know, that just being put into, I think that there's more to come, right? There's more
Oh,
of that to come. And so I wonder what, um like, back in the day growing up, like, I remember, like, Richard Pryor, and I mean, if he was censored, what did they censor him on? Like, because like, I don't know what what else could they have censored Richard
right.
Pryor on
Yeah.
that he was talking about?
Yeah.
I just don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't
you know.
either. He didn't I don't either.
I
No.
don't. I probably shouldn't have been listening to Richard Pryor as young as I was,
And Dick
but
Gregory too. And
Dick
Dick Gregory.
Gregory, yes.
Yeah, those guys.
Like,
Yeah.
and
Mom's
s-
Mabley.
right. And so I wonder the impact of censorship. I wonder the impact of having all of people's feelings and thoughts coming at you. I was so appreciative for a man to be like, no, it does impact me.
Oh, same.
Because a lot of
I was
times you hear
glad that she
people
said
that are
it
like, no,
came.
it
Yeah, of
doesn't.
course it
But you're
does.
human. Of course it does, right? Of course it impacts you. And
Yeah.
I was sorry, I have plumbing going on in my house. Um,
Okay. I was like,
I'm
"Is
getting my
it?"
plumbing checked. There's two wonderful men there. But I was really, like, so happy that they both were like, no, it actually does. We're
Yeah.
actually human. And so
Yes.
you have to wonder what the impact is for all of that. I know, like, Pastor Wesley, who's outspoken. He talked about his mental health issues,
Right.
and he's someone that is, I'm like,
And
that's
well
like,
done on Alfred Street to divest
yes,
from the
to
Kennedy
divest
Center
from the Kennedy
and
Center.
Issa Rae,
Yes.
too.
And Issa Rae and Shonda Rhimes
Yes.
and all of that. And so, on the one hand, I do see that, but I also see where we're seeing artists be more vocal in standing up in their ways
Mhm.
and speaking truth to power. We saw it with Dave Chappelle and his moment, which was so beautifully done. If you haven't watched it, watch it. I'm gonna link it. Um, by even talking about when he was in Israel, I think, and ran
Yeah,
into
yeah,
Jimmy
that was
Carter,
yeah, with Carter,
and
yeah,
then
that was
segued
beautiful.
into that. We saw it like with, yeah, the artists that are divesting from the Kennedy Center and
Mhm.
who know my art, my craft, my livelihood is under attack. They
Oh,
are
yeah.
gonna feel hits of it. They
Oh,
are
they
gonna
are, they
they
are.
are gonna, feel it. And we definitely saw it with the Super Bowl show and
Oh,
Kendrick
yeah,
Lamar, you know,
definitely.
who took a big risk.
He did.
He took a big risk. And he's like, I'm gonna pay the cost of it, I'm gonna pay the cost of it. And used his platform to speak out and to agitate. It was like a protest
Oh, it was a
performance. It
beautiful,
was a it
beautiful
was a beautiful
performance.
protest performance. And I hope that but I don't know, like, who are our intellectual Black artists?
Um, I think there's a I think that, no, I'm gonna be funny. I think that if Kendrick Lamar can, say it a little slower.
Slower. Oh, I had to read it. I was like, girls,
Same.
Lila was
So,
braiding my
if
hair,
he
and I
and
said,
he just starts writing too,
yes,
just for
yes,
people to
yes,
read, like,
to
even
read.
a book of poetry
Yes,
would he's one that is that and has the
absolutely.
capacity to have a broader audience if, it's just that for some of us, just slow it down a
I
little
was
bit
like, that's just
and,
right,
and then put it in writing in a poetry book. I'm there. I'm right there.
right,
So
right.
he has
Definitely.
um, and I'm sure it's within folks. I think it's, well, it's kinda like when we were talking about this podcast, we just wanted
Mhm.
to get on and hang out, and I don't know that we really thought so much about delving into the politics of it all, but the moment is demanding a
Yes.
conversation
Yeah.
about some of these issues, and I feel like there has to probably be more of a recognition that we're living in a moment where
Mhm.
if you have a platform of any, whether your platform could be your dining room table and just saying, I'm going to now start hosting
Mhm.
dinner once a week and inviting people in to talk, you know, I feel that that is the moment we are in, is that people are gonna have to wake up to the need to
Mhm.
actually respond and be engaged,
Right.
and get informed, and lean into deeper conversations, and really ask ourselves, all of us, no matter gender, race, religion, all the things,
Mhm. Mhm.
what does it mean to be an American? Do I value
Mhm.
being an American? Do I understand what that means? Do I,
Right.
um, in spite of all the negative stuff, like challenge ourselves to for every American, like I'm challenging myself. What's the good about my country and what has been.
Mhm. Mhm.
I
Mhm.
remember asking someone I was coaching who was just wanting a relationship, but I knew there was an current of, I don't know if you really respect men.
Mhm.
And so, and given her history, one could understand it. And I said, why don't you make a list of everything wonderful about men?
Right.
It took her a year to come up with that list. That was the beginning when she knew, oh, I actually have so much resentment, so much anger, so much,
Mhm.
and she had
Mhm.
to work through it. So it doesn't mean that we don't deal with the reality of the hurt, the harm, but at
Right.
some point she got to, but this is what is good about men. This is what it,
Right.
and she's now in a relationship. I mean,
Right. What's
it took
right.
time though. It took a couple years
Mhm.
to really figure that out because there were real reasons why you didn't they, all the things.
All
And
the things.
I because and I say that because I don't know that we really understand what we're losing, what is
No.
being lost here.
Mhm.
That what the freedoms that are being lost, that people are
Mhm.
capitulating, the that we are going to be run in an oligarchy system. I don't think that people understand what it, and it's not like the old robber barons.
No.
Have some sense of solidarity with America.
Right.
It's not that. This
Right.
is something completely new. We have people, we are making decisions that we um, won't even be, there won't even be shared intelligence.
Right.
Like other nations won't even be able to share intelligence with us
Intelligence. Right.
because they're like, wait, you guys are in bed with the Russians. Like,
Russians.
we don't know that you have
Exactly.
systems to protect the intelligence.
Exactly.
And so we're not going to be safe. Like, there are so
Right.
many things that are being broken down. And I just feel like we need to go back to the basics. What does our, don't
Mhm.
listen to other people about the Constitution. I got a little
Read the
I got a
Constitution.
little cheat thing on the Constitution.
Mhm.
You can get these little
Mhm.
study guides. And then I got the People's Guide.
Mhm.
And I'm starting to
Mhm.
go through it and being reminded, oh, we should be up in arms that Doge is just cutting things,
Even it that it even exists.
that it exists, and that even the executive office thinks
Yeah.
that he can go and cut funding for
Right. For
programs
a program that have
that
been
that the
have
Congress,
allocation. Yes.
who is the people who are responsible for passing a budget,
Mhm.
they are the ones that get to decide that.
Right.
And the executive branch is now overstepping their
That's
authority.
right.
But
The
see,
executive right. We don't know that.
we don't
The
really
executive
understand,
yeah.
and we don't understand why that's important and
Mhm.
why, and the problems, the implications of that. We just don't get
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
So everybody needs to go back to school and find out, well, I love traveling. We want to at some point live half the time someplace else.
Mhm.
However, I am an American citizen. Our
Mhm.
father was in the United States Army. We've lived all over. We
Mhm.
understand there is a difference.
There is a difference.
I've worked at
There is a
USAID.
difference.
I worked at USAID. I worked in development. I've been into
Mhm.
other, there is a difference. You do
Mhm.
want, there are privileges with being an American citizen. These privileges are under attack.
Are under attack. Yes. Absolutely. And I don't think that um my fear, my personal fear is that because we don't have an informed nation of people, just weren't taught,
Right.
which I always thought was part of a long con.
Mm-hmm.
You can control people that don't have information. They're
Mm-hmm.
just easier to control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Period. And so you're not they don't know. They don't know.
No.
And then now as an adult, right? So we're saying, okay, learn.
Mhm.
Well, I've got to now learn about something with my whole life just
Imploding. I get it.
imploding. Um, and we know that being able to read all these books that you have and I have on shelves, and that's a luxury.
Right, but you can go on
And no,
YouTube
you can go on
and
YouTube,
take
but
a
you can go
little
on YouTube, but you can. But what I'm saying is that for the because I'm for the average person who, number one, I don't even know if I'm interested, and I don't know if I should. Right? It's not something I'm thinking about. It's like the sun rises every morning. That's what it does. Right? In much way, these protections that I have, that I'm so padded, it's so padded, that my fear is that it's gonna have to really, really start to hurt a
right.
lot of people before people are agitated enough where they're
Probably.
like,
No, you're
yeah.
absolutely
And
right.
by that time, here's my fear. By that time, I don't know how we're rolling. I don't know how the rollback or the recovery is
Well,
going to,
I wanna
if we're going to
also
hold.
I wanna submit for our listeners viewing, which I recommended last night at our home group gathering. There were 2 people who had not watched this, is watch again John
John
Adams if you
Adams.
hadn't
Yes,
watched
yes.
it. Watch
Yes.
I'm going back to John Adams.
Mhm.
And you're right. It had to get bad before they were like, "Oh, we have to fight." So, when you don't have a job, you will have time until you can't pay the electricity to look at a YouTube. Not requiring
Mhm.
you don't have to read in this day.
Yeah.
Get your little phone and start to learn what it means to be a citizen.
Mhm.
Because once you know what you're losing, see, right now people don't know what they're losing, which is why
Mhm.
I felt like the Democrats' message, democracy is under attack. Oh my gosh. To me, I was like, people don't know what you're talking about.
They
Democracy
don't know what it
isn't
is.
democracy. There needed to be a public awareness campaign right
Mhm.
alongside that. I'm just saying, I get it, Chantel, and you're right. Folks, it will probably have to get to rock bottom
Mhm.
before people start to figure out, "Oh, golly, I don't have a job." I mean, you're seeing it now. There are people within the government who are pretty
Mhm.
senior within the government who were like MAGA, MAGAites, and they are being sent home.
Being sent
They
home.
are
Yes.
like, "Oh, wow." And what is happening in this country is what
Mhm.
happened in Germany.
Mhm.
Hitler Hitler was able to coalesce, these large, manufacturing and cut deals with them.
Mhm.
So, Mercedes, Siemens, these were people who supported the Nazi regime.
Right. Right.
And they were kind of the folks who had the money and was calling shots
Mhm.
and helping support, um, Hitler's regime that was put together out of grievance, which is what,
Right.
Trump did. He took
Trump did.
everybody's
Right.
grievances
Grievance. Right.
and, so what do we have? We have the tech bros.
We have the tech
They're not
bros.
manufacturers, but it's the same principle.
That's
So
right.
the very same thing is being rolled out, and yeah, I mean, lots of people had to die, and, and then it had to start really hurting, other folk before we responded, and
We
America
responded.
did not get involved until
No way.
Pearl Harbor. So
That's
you're
right.
absolutely right. It's
That's
gonna
right.
have to get people are gonna have to have some Pearl Harbor
Right.
event, and then perhaps there will be, "Wait, this is not what
Right. Right.
I don't like this. I don't like bombs
So
in my own
I
house."
was I was talking to Sheree, who's our other sister, And she says very calmly, it's gonna be fine. It's not gonna last as long as it's not gonna go on for too long. And I said, really, Ray? Well, thank you for that dose of hope in the morning.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna call you so every morning
yeah,
you
yeah.
just say that. She says, when the people go to Walmart and they can't use their SNAP benefits, when they then go to Kroger and they can't use their SNAP benefits, there will be there will be
Well,
like
this is what a
she
friend
was
of
just
mine
like,
last night
yeah,
said. She said, when middle America can't, when they've lost jobs, when they can't, when their
right,
lives are really just falling apart even
right.
more, she said 2026, with the next election of Congress,
Mhm.
they're going to come out and they're going to vote these people out. And the people who are voting, which will loosen up, she said, the grip that
Right.
powers that be have on the Congress. Right now, they've got a grip. And these
They
folks are
have it if we have fair
scared.
elections.
Yes.
I
And
mean, if we do, I'm just like, I'm hoping that we can hold a line that long, because I also know, like, one, I don't think that this I think they're very strategic. I think that if I was trying to do what they were doing, hey, y'all are hitting your strategies.
oh, they are.
I
Yeah.
Y'all are doing great. And I also know that part of your strategic planning is having a plan for that midterm election. And and
Yes.
so
Yes.
right. And so one, I know that they're like, hey, by this time, people are going to be feeling it. Approval rates are going to drop, but they have a plan for that. I don't know if I don't know if that's going to matter, in the ways in which all of those things mattered in the past. If you are
Yeah.
king and you're like, I'm it, baby, you don't really matter about your approval ratings. We're still tracking negative this, negative that, and reporting on that news. I'm like, I don't think that matters. You know
In
what I'm
fact, he
saying?
said, yeah, it's bad.
It's bad.
Inflation's going to come
It's
back.
bad. And
They
this is
left a
what they
big mess.
said.
They left a
This
big
is
mess
this
for
is
us.
what they said in their campaigning. So this rock bottom is also something that they have seeded the ground with. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be painful. It's gonna be all of that.
But we are at
I
war
but we're
against
right
wokeism.
against wokeism and against all of the things. And so I just don't think that. I think if it was any other, even with Trump in 2020, or when we had the blue wave, that
Mm,
was a different day. He has
yeah.
a different machine. It is not even him. There is President Musk is a different machine. If it was Trump, it would be like it was in 2020. Let's just ooh and ah and laugh our way and be embarrassed as Americans, right? I mean, we were really embarrassed as
Mhm,
just in that time. We were going around and apologizing to people, right?
mhm,
Like, just
mhm,
it was embarrassing. But he's not like the
mhm,
president in chief. And
mhm,
and I think that um so I just and I don't think the real president is concerned about the things of approval ratings and votes. He's like, I don't care about that. I bought the United States. I purchased her. And
mhm,
if we switch our mindset to, oh, we were purchased,
mhm.
how do we get out of that deal? I mean, it's great to to yes to the Constitution and knowing our rights and the laws and how things work. And we need to have a different response to someone who's like, I purchased that too, and I'm going to update that. That's not really working for me. We don't have a response for that. That's part of the part that I think is like we don't have the imagination for.
Mhm, mhm.
You know, it's like a football team coming on the field and they have all these rules about how you hit people so you're not
Right,
taking them out. But if you're on the field with somebody that's like, oh, y'all are just playing not by these rules and the
yeah,
referees aren't calling the shots,
yeah,
it's and that's the pivot
yeah, yeah.
that we're not seeing. So that's why some people are like this civility, this niceness, these hand gloves that we're doing, it's not working with this. They don't
Well,
they don't
100%.
yeah.
I think that I don't know what the Democrats, in terms of the leadership, the strategy. I don't know. They say they're working on a strategy. I do believe that March 14th, and I want to encourage every listener, every Democrat or everyone who cares about this country, I want to say that on March 14th is when the government, they're going to vote on a continuing resolution. And I think the Democrats need to say, no, shut it down, shut the government down, because then that stops
Mhm.
all the bleeding. It stops, you can't
Mhm.
do anything.
Mhm.
And that's the kind of hardball that they're going to have to play. And I know that we have some conversations happening within, just making sure my
I
battery,
was like, what was that? Okay.
within the government, within the party. Some don't want to shut it because they're like, we don't want to own, they'll blame us. I'm like, you're already being blamed for everything wrong. Like, don't worry about that.
Right.
Shut
You're
it
still being
down.
blamed for for the cost of eggs.
Yeah, shut it down, because anything you negotiate with this team to say, okay, well, we'll keep it, let's say, we'll keep it open if you stop firing, I don't know, all our social security people, right? So,
Right.
you cannot trust anything that's coming out of this administration.
Mm-mm.
They will lie and say,
Right.
well, or the Congress, the Republicans will say, we made the deal, but the president and Trump,
Right.
I didn't make a deal with
I
you.
make a deal.
So
I'm out here on my golf course.
I think that the Democrats move, and I want to encourage people to write your representative and say, go ahead and shut the
Shut it
government
down.
down.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we're all gonna, like you, to your point, Trump has got his people prepared for some pain.
For some pain.
Democrats need to now prepare us for some pain and
Mhm.
say, we're gonna shut it down, because that is the only way to get their attention, to say,
Right.
all right, everything stops.
Mhm.
Firing stops.
Mhm.
If you're gonna start cutting programs and not
Mhm.
creating money, it all stops. Let's
Mhm.
just get to the SNAP check ending quicker. Let's
Right.
just get there by the end of March.
Mhm. Mhm.
We don't need to
Mhm.
wait 2 years.
Right.
Let's just hurry up and call this now.
Right.
So no, you don't get your good gut, your little, you don't, yeah. And then see what the response is from folk who really need that check.
Right. Right. Right.
I think
Right.
that that is something that the Dems need to seriously consider. Now, whether they do it or not, because I'm reading that, some
The
Dems
talks and
do
yeah.
it and some are like, no, no, that'll hurt the
Yeah.
American people more. It will.
It
It
will.
will.
But we're all actually it will hurt us less
Yeah.
in the long
In the
term,
long run.
in
In
the
the long
long
run.
run,
Yeah. But we have to
because
be
we're
able
not
to
we're
we gotta be able to hit the hard floor and walk. Like, I can't we gotta be able to we gotta be able to be a little bit uncomfortable
A
for a
little
little
bit
bit.
uncomfortable.
And
Right.
I say that not knowing how that will impact, my household,
Yep.
your hou
My
and your
household.
household, but it's really like folk need to get their groceries, get the get everything you need. I know we have a big, what is it, boycott on the 28th, but
Yep.
get what you need, fill up on some rice and some beans
Things. Share
and
some soup
do right
recipes.
and get ready
Get
and
some flour to make some bread.
bread. That's all we need, and
Sheree
tell them to
says that
shut it
she's
down.
getting chickens, and I said that makes sense. You're on that
Yeah.
land and getting
Yes.
getting her cause getting making a
Yes,
chicken, building a
that's
chicken.
right. And
Is
she
it a
will
coop?
have her eggs.
Have her eggs. You
Exactly.
can sell some eggs, depend,
Exactly.
you know. But yes,
It's
it's
getting ready
that's
to be
the
that time of,
that's
and
the
and
time.
and be we gotta get self-sufficient and
Yeah.
start using I mean, we don't have a lot of options on the table,
No, we don't. No, we
especially since
don't.
folks are they can't get locked up and they can't get I don't think
Oh,
it should be ever they can't.
can't get locked up. You're not gonna let me in. Okay, baby. What?
I
Like,
was Now
we're gonna
that
go
was
to the next.
embarrassing to
We're
me.
gonna go to the next one. Like what?
I was that was
Are
okay,
you
last thing, I know we
serious?
have to go. Last thing, this is
Yes.
the other thing because
Yes.
Elon Musk, they're kicking folk out of the country, but the South African, he
Yes.
was like, telling the Afrikaners, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
listen, if you wanna come to this country," and I was checking with my Republican friends. I was like, "Hey, I heard this. Is this true or not?"
Right.
Like, "What are we, your Republican whisperers?" And I said, "Yeah,
Right.
because I hear this stuff and it sounds
Right.
like fake news to me." But they're
Right.
like, "No, this is true, that there was a
He's
special
clearing a
visa."
land.
Yeah, there's a
Yes.
special visa provision for white South Africans to
Mm-hmm.
come here who've been disenfranchised for the,
Apartheid.
from
Yes.
apartheid. Well, here's what some South Africans responded like, "No, we don't want to come to America. We actually have it good because the blacks just have political power. We still have the economic power.
Mm.
Black people, let's use this time to get some economic power.
Economic power.
Let's pay our bills.
Exactly.
Let's pay our bills.
Yes. Yes.
Get out of debt.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see who's investing in what. I have my little app now. There's this little app where you can just invest the way some of these politicians are investing who are making
Yes.
quite a return on their
Right.
investments. Let's get our money together. Let's use our buying power for our community
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we got some economic power. But yeah, the South Africans like, we're not coming to America.
Right. Thank you, Elon, but no thank you. I mean, honestly, honestly.
Anyway.
Well, this has been lovely.
Yes, it has.
Okay. And we're gonna see deep breathing,
Yes.
deep breathing through the day,
Drought. Yes.
through the
That just has
day,
to just
deep.
be a practice.
It's gonna have to be a practice because we cannot be disengaged. That's what I'm telling folks.
Right.
This is not the time for
Right.
you to check out.
That's right. That's
It's
right. As
not,
much as
it's
you want to,
as
it's
much
not.
as you want to. It really is not the time for you to check
Yeah.
out. So,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I will talk to you
Talk to
next
you
week,
next
before
week.
next week,
Well,
but we'll talk like this next
yes.
week.
All right, hon. Take
All
care.
right.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.